Hi, this is Les Levine, the self-proclaimed voice of truth and reason in Ohio sports. Does anybody know the NCAA basketball tournament somewhat started last night in Dayton? Hey, I thought this was a 64-team tournament. Why in the heck are there 68 in my bracket? And does anybody know that MLB opened last night with the first of 2 games in Japan, with the Seattle Mariners hosting the Oakland A's? Then after tomorrow's game 2, they all go back to spring training and start over again. Doesn't make sense. For a sport that thrives on tradition, why can't they just go back to Cincinnati to open up game 1? I know, get off my lawn. It takes years to become a tradition, and then you just throw it away. I don't get it. From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les Levine on a Wednesday night. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to More Sports and Les Levine into our 23rd consecutive year, and of course seen exclusively on cleveland.com. The D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, is here.
Hold on, Les. I'm checking my phone to see if another MLB regular season 2019 game has been played.
I've been doing scoreboard watching.
On March 20th.
On March 20th, and then they send them back for spring training.
Here's the thing. It's happened before. I ranted about this years ago when they opened in Japan. It's like, what are you trying to prove here, MLB? What are you trying to prove? And don't tell me, oh, we're trying to spread the game globally. To Japan, which loves the game? You're not selling baseball on Japan. They love it anyway. What are you doing? What is this? Why do you have to do this?
And why do you
That's
have to,
what I want to know. Why do you have to do this?
And why do you have to do it with Game 1, opening day, which is one of the biggest traditions
sure.
they have?
I understand, mid-season you'd have travel craziness for the teams that had to do it. And, Japan, London is one thing, Japan is another. But, again, you said it so well in the opening. Baseball is a tradition-based sport still. Why can't you just keep the opening day tradition intact? And that meaning open in ballparks and cities in which you have teams.
Well, also, Cincinnati is the tradition. They just took it away from them. Bring it back to Cincinnati.
I didn't understand that either. It's just, does any sport, any major sport, shoot itself in the foot more often than MLB?
No.
Self-inflicted wounds. There's no reason to do this type of thing. Just as there's no reason to contemplate a runner on second base with nobody out in the 11th inning. Or any of these other crazy ideas that the MLB headquarters is coming up with to shorten games.
Yeah, and in the meantime, they signed Mike Trout for $450 million. They signed Machado, and it continues at Bryce Harper. And the smaller markets like Cleveland can't compete against that.
Well, Les, this is where I will disagree to a point. The beauty of baseball is that it is able to self-regulate enough that just because a team has a certain number of stars does not guarantee it anything in October, okay? It doesn't mean you don't want to have a high payroll. It doesn't mean you don't want your team to spend and have stars everywhere, but it doesn't guarantee success in October. I submit the 3 guys who are responsible for more than $1 billion worth of contracts this offseason. Harper, Machado, Trout. Combined, 0 World Series championships, 1 World Series appearance. Machado last year.
Well, you know what? When you talk about baseball and the pitching, if you have 5 pitchers, 5 good pitchers, that means you have 5 different teams. That would be like 5 different quarterbacks have to start for you in football, which you can't do. Obviously, your one quarterback is the key, and it's the same basic team, barring injuries, over and over and over again. Major League Baseball, essentially, you've got 5 different teams that you're throwing out there, depending on who your starting pitching is.
That's true. And the thing about baseball is you need a certain number of players to get you through the grind that is the 162-game regular
Correct.
season. And you also need more than a few players to get you through October. You cannot, as an example, in the NBA, rely on 1 or 2 guys, think LeBron and Kyrie, to carry you to a title.
Yeah, because they're the basic same team game after game after game.
Sure. And one example that pops out in the MLB is back when the Giants were playing the Angels in the World Series, the Angels were like, we're not going to let Barry Bonds beat us. So they walk him. Somebody else had to beat him. Well, the Angels wind up winning the series. The point is, I don't see the gloom and doom that a lot of people do when a player signs a gargantuan contract in terms of competitive balance, because time and again, teams that aren't necessarily number 1 or number 2 in payroll wind up either getting to the World Series or winning it.
They have the advantage. They don't have the advantage to win it, but they have the advantage to be there.
Oh, sure. I'm not saying your odds aren't increased by having Mike Trout on your team. What I am saying, though, is the Angels have had Mike Trout for 6 full seasons
and haven't won.
a 40-game stretch in his rookie or his first call-up.
Right.
And they've been to exactly 1 playoff series, the 2014 ALDS against the Kansas City Royals. Gone. 3 games. That's all Mike Trout has to show for 6.5 years in the majors.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. And by the way, we should add call between 6 and 7 Eastern time. We've been starting to get calls a couple hours after we do the show. We appreciate that very much, but obviously we're not here at
I wonder
the
if
time.
we'll get any calls from Japan in anticipation of Game 2 of the MLB regular season. By the way, Les, I don't see Japan knocking down the doors of United States cities to open their season in the U.S. Do you?
Could you see that? I'd like to see the Ham Fighters
Come
play.
on. That's absurd.
Dennis Manoloff on a roll. 216-575-0403. You can also email us during the show, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can do that at reallesLevine@gmail.com. We'll get to some of the emails that we've had. And we also have a new number where you can leave us voicemails, and we'll display that a little bit later also. But let's turn to football for a minute, because that's what everybody wants to talk about. And obviously the big addition of Odell Beckham Jr., and it made us start to think about how good he, along with Jarvis Landry and whatever else they have in the wide receiving core, is it as good as anybody in football? And where does it stand with the great wide receiving teams of history with the Cleveland Browns, Dante Lavelli, a Hall of Famer, and so on? But this is Minnesota. D-Man, take a look at Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. This is what they did last year. 113 receptions for Thielen and 102 for Diggs, and they each scored a total of 9 touchdowns. How do you like that duo?
Wow. I mean, that's tough to beat. 2 guys that go triple-digit receptions. So they're obviously incredibly talented, but I'll take my chances, assuming good health, with Beckham and Landry. And on top of that, I like Higgins. Don't sleep on Rashard Higgins. Assuming he comes back, Higgins and Callaway as your sort of complements to the big 2. I like those 4.
Here's a big 2 with the Los Angeles Rams, Robert Woods and Brandon Cooks. 6 touchdowns for Woods, 5 for Cooks, and a total of 166 receptions between the 2 and over 2,400 yards.
There we go.
And here's the Browns. There you see Beckham and Jarvis Landry. This is last year. Beckham, 77 catches, 1,052 yards, 6 touchdowns. And Landry with 81 catches, just under 1,000 yards in receiving, and 4 touchdowns for him. Out of that group, of course, you had Odell Beckham Jr. missed some time due to injury. And you like them against the Rams guys and the Vikings?
I mean, assuming, again, full health
Sure.
and fully engaged Beckham, you put him with Landry. I like those two. I'll put those two up against anybody in the league. Maybe a tad below Diggs and Thielen, given the production that Diggs and Thielen have already shown, because we haven't seen what Beckham and Landry can do as Browns. But I would be shocked if, provided Landry and Beckham play 16 games, I'd be shocked if one of them doesn't have 100 receptions.
You see right behind D-Man, you saw John Dorsey's had some success here and in Kansas City. And we'll take a look at some of those successes when we get back. You can also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/More Sports and Les Levine, with new content posted each and every day. We'll come on back. We'll take a look at Dorsey's draft success. We'll take your phone calls. Lines are open if you'd like to get in, 216-575-0403, between 6 and 7 p.m. That's Eastern Time. We're exclusively More Sports and Les Levine on cleveland.com.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
All right, birthdays for today. Pat Riley was born in the state, 1945. Scotch Tape, 1947. Mookie Blaylock, Jamal Crawford, Britton Colquitt, the punter, and of course Brad Hand, the Indians closer, all born on March 20th, which is today. 216-575-0403. I'm Les Levine. This is the D-Man, Dennis Manoloff. John Patrick writes, it seems that John Dorsey's hitting a home run in every move he makes. He's an excellent talent evaluator, made some great trades not only by adding talent but by getting rid of some dead wood. His first draft appears to be the best Browns draft in years. What I don't understand is why Kansas City let him get away. Browns fans know how hard it is to find a good talent evaluator, and Kansas City fired him. What happened with him in KC? I assume Andy Reid and him clashed a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation as to what happened. Dorsey hasn't exactly been free-flowing with the info on it. I'm just glad he's here in Cleveland. I mean, think about this. All Dorsey has to say are two names, Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, he got them both.
It's like, drop the mic.
Yeah,
that's it.
I'm done. Good night, everybody.
How are you going to beat that?
Tip your
for the next
waitresses
10 years,
on the way out.
Other than Brady doing it at 55 or whatever.
John Dorsey, John Patrick has been stellar in his performance of late, sending in new How Come Quickies. He sends one in tonight. He says, how come when my book hit me in the head, I only had my shelf to blame?
Wow.
It's an art. It's an art. It's a gift. It's a gift from the gods. All right, gift from the gods, the way John Dorsey drafts. Let's take a look at what he did here in Cleveland. The 2018 draft, Baker Mayfield goes number 1 with the first pick. Denzel Ward, that was a surprise, number 4. Pick 4, rather. And then Austin Corbett, who they're hoping for big things from him this year. Nick Chubb, Chad Thomas, didn't hear much from him. Antonio Callaway, that was a surprise choice. Jannard Avery, Damian Ratley, and Simeon Thomas. You look at that, that's pretty good. But you still need 3 years to evaluate it.
Yeah, that's true, although Avery looks like a heck of a find.
Right.
Here's the thing. I mean, I get that the Browns don't have 17 overall, but I'm not saying Dorsey wouldn't want to be in the first round, but you feel almost like his wheelhouse is even, second, third, fourth round stuff. He probably loves that just as much as he does picking in the first round.
All right, let's go back in history with Cleveland Browns, see what kind of receiving core and output they've had offensively. Some pretty big names, Hall of Famers. Let's take a look. 1946, when the Browns started, you had a fellow by the name of Otto Graham. Otto Graham gets short shrift by people who rank the quarterbacks in history.
Never from me.
Yeah.
He's always in my top 3 somewhere. Now with Brady, Graham, and somebody else are in my top 3 because how do you match 10 seasons, 10 championship games?
He gets blamed because they were in the All-American Conference the first 4 years. All right, 46, you had Otto Graham, Marion Motley, Dante Lavelli, all Hall of Famers. Max Speedy, which is you think that's a made-up name, but it's not. Frank Ryan in 64 with Jim Brown, Paul Warfield, and Gary Collins. Collins, of course, scoring 3 touchdowns in the championship win, 27-0 over Baltimore. Then it was in 1987. You had Kosar, Mack, and Biner, and your wide receivers, Kevin Webster Slaughter and Brian Brennan. Both undersized by today's standards. Even then, they were undersized. But you can't compare Webster Slaughter and Brian Brennan to the potentiality of Beckham and Landry. Yeah.
That's true. You can't. It is amazing to me, Les, that granted you had the 3-year hiatus.
Yep.
But the fact that we are looking forward to this offense as much as at any time since the late 80s.
Yeah, since the Kosar years. Yeah, the drive and the fumble.
That's amazing that it's taken this long to finally actually look at a potential offense and say it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's you don't have the actual results as you did with Kosar and Graham and Ryan, but potentially this looks like it could just knock them out of the ballpark.
Yeah, and obviously I've said let Dorsey do what he does, and he knows more than we do. But I would love to see him keep Duke Johnson Jr. I still.
Well, what is it about him that somebody doesn't like?
Well, some have said that because Dorsey inherited him, there's not as much of a tie to him, and he's willing to move him. You obviously see the Hunt acquisition. If you're Johnson, you're like, okay, where am I going to get my touches when Hunt joins Chubb? But I still think, given the attrition in the NFL, you never know, given the fact that Hunt is out for 8 games out of the gate, and the fact that Duke Johnson is a quality player and a heck of a competitor, I would hold on to him because I think if you try to trade him, you're going to get pennies on the dollar for what Duke Johnson is capable of.
Right. He can come out of the backfield as good as anybody we've seen in a long time. 216-575-0403. We also have a new number we've added where you can leave voicemails for us in off hours. We're here live 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern time, so anytime other than that you can log in and use the voicemail. And here's, are we ready to go with our first one? Somebody let me know.
Hi, Les. This is Ron Byer, Fremont, Ohio. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Les, the people I'm excited the most for because of the great picks of GM John Dorsey are the children of the die-hard Cleveland fans who taught their children to love Cleveland sports teams. My son Joe Byer is a teacher in Florida, and he has put his classroom with a lot of Cleveland sports items for many years. Now he can stick his chest out with pride if the Browns work hard and achieve the ultimate goal, Super Bowl.
Well,
thanks for
does he get it? I wonder if he gets in trouble.
Say my comments, Les, and take care. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Appreciate it. I met Ron last year from Fremont, Ohio. We appreciate that. Could you imagine you walk into a classroom in Florida and you see nothing but Cleveland stuff?
Yeah. Les, I got a question for you relating to what Ron said. How are the Browns going to handle training camp for the public?
Why, you mean so many will be there?
I mean, think about how much interest there's going to be in this training camp in particular, with Beckham coming in and Mayfield established and Landry and all of the storylines. By the way, perfect for Hard Knocks, but I'm kind of glad they're not here this year. But how are they going to handle that? Because you and I have been over to Lou Groza.
Sure.
It's not exactly a sprawling estate.
No.
for, where they're going to have camp.
Lakeland was terrific. Lakeland would have been perfect for
And I'm not
what they're
saying
gonna have.
in most years Berea does just fine. That little slice of land does just fine. But this year, I don't envy the Browns staff trying to handle the crush of people who want to be viewing camp.
Yeah, you were having people come, not throngs of people, but to see teams that didn't do very well. This is a team with the unbelievable expectations. And I'm not sure what people actually are looking for when they come to Browns camp, but although it's a nice time if you can't afford to go to games, you can bring your kids out there. But you bring up a point I hadn't thought about, because they're going to have to somehow, with traffic and all, the traffic will be more than they've ever had since they've been in Berea.
I've always been in favor of the Browns camp remaining in Berea, because of how important it is to Berea and the fact that that's where they live.
And there was a big move to go to Columbus, which is a bad
which I
move.
was adamantly opposed to.
Right.
But in a case like this, you know it's going to be packed. The people who are allowed to get in, then the overflow, what are they going to do? Stand on the sidewalks and wait until players come out in their cars? I mean, it just seems like it's going to be crazy, and therefore I wonder how the Browns are going to sort that out.
When we get back...
but it's a good problem to have,
It is a good problem to have, no question about that. We're going to take a look when we get back, the most explosive offenses in Cleveland Browns history when we get back. Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing Monday through Wednesday and Saturday evening. 6 p.m. is the post time. Open early every day for simulcast action for the top thoroughbred and harness tracks all around the world. Free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park. We're coming back in a moment with the D-Man, Dennis Manoloff. More sports and less Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Your basement is damp, dirty, and not somewhere you want to spend time. Let Nature Stone Flooring transform your basement into a true extension of your home. Nature Stone's proprietary hydrostatic ports allow water to simply evaporate, so no mold or mildew. Nature Stone is the affordable basement floor solution that beautifies your home.
Get Nature Stone installed in your home by the end of March and get up to 50% off. Schedule your free in-home estimate easily online today.
It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back. More sports and less Levine. How come Quickie Time, D-Man? How come the restaurant should be called Park and Eat instead of the other way around? Right? Now, why is it Eat and Park? Why? I don't get it. Okay. Welcome back. More sports and less Levine exclusively on cleveland.com. We're going to take a look at what we're going to expect offensively. We asked a Facebook question. That is, what do you consider to be the most explosive offense in Browns history? Al Stike says any team with Jim Brown, Ernie Green, Leroy Kelly, Gary Collins, and Paul Warfield gets my vote. 3 Hall of Fame members. Collins should be in the Hall. He was on all the 60s teams, and the guy was a very good punter, by the way. Glenn Berger says the 64-65 Browns teams, Paul Warfield and Gary Collins at the ends, Johnny Brewer, the tight end, Jim Brown, Ernie Green at running backs, and Frank Ryan at quarterback. They scored a lot of points and kept defenses honest. Pete Shane says, well, in my lifetime, it would have been the mid to late 80s Browns, but with this new group, I feel the best is yet to come. Tom Ferris, the mid 80s with Bernie, Brennan, Langhorne, Mack, and Biner. Rick May goes on and he says, not sure if this counts. What about the team back in the 50s with Otto Graham and Marion Motley before they joined the NFL? That would have been the 40s. If I recall, they won a string of championships. Yeah, they played 10 championship games in a row at that point.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything that's up there. There's one year in the AFC in particular that I remember the Browns' offense was insane relative to the rest of the conference. I just can't remember which one it is.
I'm going to guess 48.
But, yeah, when you had Otto running the show and his Converse Chuck Taylor high tops, I mean, Graham is just and they were throwing that watermelon of a football.
Right.
That football was like this big. You think about how hard it was to throw, but Graham was such an amazing player. He was a transcendent player of his era.
Absolutely, 10 years ahead of his time. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to University Heights. We'll say hi to Jim. Jim, go ahead. You're on with Dennis Manoloff tonight.
All right, hey, Les and Dennis.
What's up, Jim?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on Duke. I'm getting like some double feedback here, but I love that guy. I've always loved to watch him run and try to juke out everyone. But,
who are you talking about?
You're talking about Duke Johnson?
Oh, Duke.
Touches,
Yeah.
When you're 1 in 31, how are you supposed to get the ball to him as much as you would like?
That's a good point. Can you imagine, though, the defensive coordinators around the league, how many hours they're going to spend thinking about how to stop? You can't cover everybody, right?
Right, and my feeling, and I know that Duke would like to be a featured back, okay, but as long as he's under contract with the Browns, as long as the Browns have control over him, I would keep him because he is so versatile. And you know what else I remember, Jim, about Duke Johnson? I'll never forget this. The Detroit game. I've mentioned this on previous shows. Detroit game when Kaiser does the sneak from the 50-yard line and comes up short and they lose. Duke Johnson is furious. He throws his helmet down. That dude was a competitor, or is a competitor.
Right.
He hates to lose. That's
guy,
exactly
man.
what I want in my locker room.
He's got the name, too, Duke. But,
that's a bonus.
But you know what? If Duke was just a little bit faster, because when you're like a back like him, he's not big, but, you get the ball, you got to have some explosive speed, maybe Marshall Falcat or something, and, but the guy's a very savvy runner. He meets 3 guys and he does like a stop step and a turnaround just to try to fight for a half yard. You just love that guy. But I think, Dennis, you were saying that, what are you going to get for him in a trade?
You're not going to get. You're not going to get, Jim. You're not going to get equal value. You may get a 4th or a 5th in a case like that. And to me, he's worth. He's worth more worth more than a 4th or 5th rounder.
And I think at the very least for the first half of this upcoming season, Duke Johnson can be a weapon.
Yeah.
Now, it obviously would remain to be seen what happens.
You know what's going to happen, though? You got Chubb. I'll give him the ball to Chubb before I give it to Duke.
Of course.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that Chubb's not
right
your
now.
featured back, but there is.
Duke out in a slot position. You got Landry and all that. You got a lot of, even before Kareem Hunt shows up, you still got a lot of guys that you can get the ball to, and they're going to make something happen.
Thanks for the call. Instead of being overloaded with guys, you're going to be underloaded. If if before Hunt gets back, if you don't have Duke Johnson to balance it, that's a heck of a load for Nick Chubb.
Of course, I'm saying Nick Chubb is the featured back.
Yep.
He deserves to be. But there is still a place for Duke Johnson, especially when you consider the offensive minds that are Freddie Kitchens and Todd Monken.
Right.
Now, I know Kitchens didn't necessarily feature Duke Johnson a whole lot, but I'm thinking Monken and Kitchens would love to have Duke Johnson in their mix as part of their creativity packages, much less as a depth guy, let alone as a depth guy. So I still think there's a place for Duke Johnson on
I
this
get
team.
the feeling that Monken and Kitchens right now, they're out in Berea scribbling notes and everything and just smiling.
On the ground.
Like Bernie.
Ground.
Like Bernie in the dirt. I mean, they're going to have a blast putting this thing together.
How can you not? Again, if the season were to start tomorrow and you could run out there Beckham, Landry, Callaway, Higgins, Johnson, Chubb, and Njoku with Mayfield running the show, I like my chances to score a lot of points. Even with an offensive line that loses Zeitler, because I believe that John Dorsey thinks that he drafted the right guy in Corbett.
Well, we're going to get a chance to talk about that offensive line when we get back. More Sports and Les Levine will continue. Also, we'll see what you expect from the offensive line. We'll also get some voicemail of the voice and truth and reason. And there it is. There's the number to call. Brand new, D-Man. Call anytime, 24 hours a day. Leave a message for the voice of truth and reason. 216-200-6650. That's the number to call. And you can leave any message you'd like, 216-200-6650, and we'll use the best messages on a future show as we did tonight. Brand new, and already it is making headway into the front stone, the face of More Sports and Les Levine, which will continue exclusively on cleveland.com.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
It takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling to bring the heat when things get chilly. Find us at 440-449-HEAT.
Let's take a look at this date in sports history. March 20th, 2005, a guy named LeBron James becomes the youngest NBA player to score at least 50 points in a game at the age of 20 years and 80 days. LeBron scored 56. The Cavs lost to Toronto that night by a score of 105-98. You glad he's not making the playoffs, or that he is? Or are you happy that he is not making the playoffs, or
I'm getting a
unhappy?
chuckle out of it is all it is. I mean, I'm not sitting there hanging on every game that the Lakers lose, but I get a little kick out of it that he, after leaving Cleveland for the second time, the first year has not gone well. Doesn't mean it's not going to end in a championship for him in L.A. Doesn't mean he's not happy there, or that he won't be his movie mogul and all that. I'm simply saying the first season in L.A. has been problematic. And part of it is he and the power of Clutch Sports and his brand thought they could shame the Pelicans into trading them Anthony Davis just because.
Right.
It's like, you're the Pelicans, we're the Lakers,
yeah, come on,
so you have to trade us Anthony Davis.
Yeah, well, they held firm.
The Pelicans said no. Dell Demps, the GM, shown the door afterwards. But the point being is that because that didn't happen, you've seen the result. The Lakers are not making the playoffs. I'm not sure,
even if they had Davis, that they would have had enough time to regroup and get into the postseason. Although you never know. That's a heck of a combo. But what has been proven is that LeBron can't snap his fingers and bring talented people along with him.
Well, we've talked about that in previous shows. Paul George was a primary example that you brought up. By my count,
Chris Paul
had a chance to join. LeBron didn't do it. George has had at least one, maybe two occasions to join. LeBron didn't do it. Carmelo, we keep hearing that one day Carmelo's going to join up with LeBron. LeBron's had an opportunity to bring Carmelo to Cleveland or to L.A., didn't do it.
How about this one? Dwayne Wade was on the team, on its way to the postseason and on its way to the finals, and he opted out.
I'm waiting, anyone out there, for a satisfactory explanation as to what exactly happened with D. Wade in Cleveland, okay? Because all we heard was, well, and I even said at the time, the Cavs did right by the player because he wanted out, but that didn't mean I wasn't saying, well, why? Why do you want out? Can't you wait another couple months before you go back to South Beach? It's not like you have to spend 5 more years in Cleveland.
And
it was only a matter of months.
And you got the finals just ahead, which they got to without him.
The odds that you're going to get to the finals were pretty high. Well, why did you have to force your way out of Cleveland in the middle of the season?
Good question. Let's get back to the offensive line on the Browns, and we can continue on any other topic you'd like. Here you go. This is a couple of notes as far as the Browns' offensive line is concerned. You got Austin Corbett projected to replace Kevin Zeitler at right guard. In 2018, Greg Robinson replaced Desmond Harrison in the final 8 games. In those 8 games, the Browns allowed just 5 sacks, and the Browns were second highest rated offensive line in the league at the end of the 2018 season. That according to Pro Football Focus. That's pretty good. Here's the projected offensive line after the moves they've made. Left tackle, Greg Robinson. Left guard, Joel Bitonio. J.C. Treader in the middle. And Austin Corbett, right guard, and right tackle, Chris Hubbard.
I mean, and you also like some of the depth that Dorsey's brought in here, but I really like the fact that Greg Robinson is on a 1-year contract for 19. That's a make good. That's a bet on myself.
Right.
I'm going to strike it big at the end of 2019. So that's what I want. I want a guy who has a lot to prove and a lot of money on the table for a good performance. You figure he's going to be playing well. I trust Dorsey on Corbett, on the talent evaluation of Corbett. So that line is fine to me.
Well, it's going to have to be.
Well, yeah, and you look at what happened in the second half of last year. Mayfield was barely touched. I think he was the least pressured quarterback of anybody in the NFL.
So somebody's doing something right on the line.
Admittedly, Zeitler was part of it, yes. Yeah. But I still think that Corbett can be a quality player. Otherwise, Dorsey wouldn't have thought him highly enough to draft him in the top 40.
Imagine that. You had so few hits on Baker Mayfield last year, especially at the end. It's hard to contemplate.
Especially the way it began, Les.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. You know, the first few games, he's getting killed.
Well, part of it is he didn't have any idea what he was looking at.
Well, that's true. And also some of you would think that some of the schemes were not necessarily geared toward Mayfield getting the ball out of his hand quickly enough. Kitchens came in, seemed to rectify that. But, yeah, and I guess in fairness to Haley and Jackson, they were dealing with a guy who had to learn the NFL game and probably was holding on to the ball too long, exacerbating the problem. But second half of the year, there's no question that Mayfield stayed upright.
You okay with Drew Stanton as the backup?
I kind of would have liked to have seen Bortles as an example. What did Bortles sign for? $1 million?
Yeah.
To back up Goff out in L.A. But
how about Fitzpatrick to start in Miami?
I mean, that's asking an awful lot of Fitzmagic. He'll give you a couple of games and then he'll throw 5 picks. I guess Dorsey's group believes in Drew Stanton. And we say
okay
this,
with me.
It's a broken record, but how do you sit there and tell John Dorsey, you know what? I think I got a better option right now than Drew Stanton, the quarterback.
It doesn't matter what the option is.
That's not going to go well, that conversation.
No, but if you lose your first-string quarterback for any amount of time, I don't care who your backup is, you're not going to compete.
That's true, Les, but I would like to see enough of a competence backup to where if Mayfield were to go down, you could at least try to get into the playoffs or have a shot at getting into the playoffs, as opposed to a backup that would lead you nowhere but off a cliff and you would never win again.
Hey, when we get back, we're going to take a look at your favorite sport and my favorite sport, baseball. And we're going to look at the projected starting lineup, which I must admit looks better than it did a month ago.
When we do that, Les, it better be done in 1 minute and 20 seconds as opposed to 1 minute and 55 seconds.
Why, is Rob Manfred watching
the
tonight?
The commissioner's going to yell at us for taking too long to talk about baseball.
As soon as we start talking about baseball, the commissioner starts complaining?
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, on the Trout situation, I heard somebody say, he should have waited for the Yankees and Red Sox to get in. I say, well, first of all, he'd have to wait another year because he's under contract, so he couldn't talk to him. I say that if you're talking in millions, and as soon as the first word comes out as 4, you just say, thank you, where do I sign? What are we talking about, 401 million or 499 million?
I saw a text that said, good for Trout for showing loyalty to the Angels. I hope Lindor can do the same. Lindor would do the same if you dropped $426 million in front of him.
As soon as that 4 comes up,
that's not going to happen.
You got to sign. When we get back, we'll hear from Carlos Gonzalez. We'll hear from Terry Francona. We'll get your thoughts on the Indians as we, about a week and a half now, right? Till opening day?
March 28th, and the weather's supposed to be decent in Minnesota.
Really?
So it looks like we're going to have a decent chance to actually play that game.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come on back. More sports and Les Levine continues exclusively right here on cleveland.com. Cleveland's oldest family-owned and operated restaurant. I've talked about them every day for 26 years, and I've gone to them almost every Thursday for 26 years, which I will do tomorrow. Located 5 minutes out of downtown in the Tremont area. Take the Abbey Avenue exit, and there you got it. Mike and Bernie Sokolowski's University Inn, 11 to 3, Monday through Friday. Friday and Saturday nights for dinner. The winner of the James Beard Foundation Award just a couple of years ago. That's the Oscars of restaurants. We'll come back in a moment, exclusively on cleveland.com.
The concrete in your garage is uneven, cracked, pitted, and just plain ugly. Transform your garage into a welcoming entryway with Nature Stone flooring. Reduce tracked-in dirt. Eliminate puddling and salt damage. Plus, Nature Stone corrects uneven concrete so you don't have to worry about tripping or slipping.
Get Nature Stone installed in your home by the end of March and get up to 50% off. Schedule your free in-home estimate easily online today.
It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Well, you know what? This is a great offensive team, and for me, obviously, everybody wants to do well offensively. Also, help the pitchers when it comes to defense. I play my last 10 years with an organization is based on offense, but also we work extremely hard on being a great defensive team. It was important for us to play defense, to be great when it comes to defense, because Coors Field is a place that you can lose a game in one inning. And if you look at the roster, you can see guys that win Gold Gloves everywhere. You have Loan Hernado, and I won a couple Gold Gloves in the outfield. You have DJ LeMahieu, who was another Gold Glove caliber player. So that's one thing that I can bring to this organization. Just be a tremendous outfielder, help my pitchers, help my team. Save some runs, and when it comes to the opportunity to be clutch at the plate, just take those chances.
I mean, again, we have, I think, a month to let him work into shape, which is good. That was the one I know when we were talking to him. That was my biggest concern was where are we going to be able to have time to get him where he can be Carlos Gonzalez? And I thought Chris and those guys did a really good job. We're getting a pro. Everybody you talk to just loves him, loves having him around. Not just what he does with a bat, just the way he carries himself, the way he's a professional. And in my small interaction with him so far, you can tell you just love the way he carries himself.
All right, there's Terry Francona talking about Carlos Gonzalez, who you saw just before that. So rotochamp.com has come up with this projected lineup. Of course, injuries will determine whether that's right or not. Francisco Lindor, Jason Kipnis, Jose Ramirez, Carlos Santana, Jake Bauers in the outfield, Carlos Gonzalez in the outfield, Hanley Ramirez is the DH, Leonis Martinez center field, and Roberto Perez behind the plate.
Rotochamp, I love you, I suppose, but there's no way Jake Bauers is batting ahead of Carlos Gonzalez and Hanley Ramirez. Just not happening, okay?
All right, here's what happened.
Come on.
The front office took a look at the lineup, projected lineup, about 2 weeks ago, and I told them 4 weeks ago that wasn't going to work. You got to do something about it. So they're piecemealing it out and getting the names look good. Hanley Ramirez and Carlos Gonzalez. The names are there, but what about the player?
Les, I don't care if you got him in the middle of March. I don't care if the bulk of his production came in high altitude. Carlos Gonzalez is instant starter on this team.
You wake him up.
As soon as he raises his hand and says, I'm good to go, he's in the starting lineup. No hesitations.
And I get the feeling he'll say, I'm good to go, before most people would say he's good to go.
True enough. You hope that he's faster along than you might think. Same with Hanley Ramirez. Now, I hold my breath more with Hanley Ramirez because of what's happened with him. He's not exactly been a pro's pro as Carlos Gonzalez has, but the same with Ramirez. If he says I'm good to go and he can swing the bat, he's in the lineup. Carlos Gonzalez and Hanley Ramirez, just by virtue of their names, automatically jump to the front of the line with this crew.
All right, they wake up in the middle of March and should be able to hit. I would assume that. I don't think they need as much time as other people would need. However, I look at that lineup, and if we can post it again, my biggest concern is half the guys are coming off injuries, and history tells you that that's just going to be a problem. We don't know that the calf is always a bothersome injury that Lindor has. Jason Kipnis has had a problem. He's got a calf problem also. And Jose Ramirez, what is he? Is he a 4-month player or is he a 6-month player?
Well, I think when the Indians look at that lineup, they're praying that Jose Ramirez figures it out for a full season.
Right.
Because he's one of the few guys you think you can count on because he was an MVP candidate for the vast majority of the season. But, there's no doubt the Indians, even with Gonzalez coming soon, and even if Ramirez finds his way into the lineup and has somewhat of a stick, you're still scratching for runs. And, Dave Bacon, our colleague, star colleague, and I were talking before the show. The Minnesota Twins are no slouch.
No.
And their lineup that they've quietly assembled
3, 4, 5
is not bad at all. The acquisitions they've had in the offseason, such as Nelson Cruz, C.J. Cron, Jonathan Scope. If those three guys had come to Cleveland, we'd have been doing cartwheels. So, yeah, I get it.
Marwin Gonzalez?
Marwin Gonzalez is another one. I get that the Indians pitching, the starting pitching, is vastly superior to that of the Twins. But I'm telling you right now, the Minnesota Twins can run with the Indians during this season.
All right.
They are not going to be 20 games behind in August.
We haven't talked about Carlos Santana. You like that addition from the old friend?
He seems to love it here. Yeah. He's motivated. You know what you're going to get with Carlos.
Right.
Carlos is a guy, you don't look at him at any individual point during the season. You just look at the end of the year, the numbers.
Yeah, you know what they'll be.
Right.
Plus the walks.
You'll tear your hair out if you isolate. It was kind of the same way with Edwin Encarnacion. If you isolated a certain point in the season, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy can't hit. But at the end of the year, the numbers will be there. That's how it is with Carlos.
All right, if you want to get in before the end of the show, from 6 till 7 Eastern Time. You can do that right now. One line is open, 216-575-0403. And tomorrow night, Andy Baskin from 92.3 The Fan will join us. Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing Sunday through Wednesday as well as Saturday with a post time at 6 p.m. Free handicapping contests all season long, including the popular Road to the Derby on Saturdays and the weekly Sunday contest featuring Gulfstream Park. It's free admission, it's free parking every day at Northfield Park. Dennis Manoloff and I return one more time. More sports and less Levine seen exclusively on cleveland.com.
When my dad started Nature Stone right here in Northeast Ohio, he created a solution for age-old concrete problems: unevenness, cracking, pitting, and more. Nature Stone solves all of these problems in garages, basements, and outdoor spaces. Nature Stone is beautiful, environmentally friendly, and always affordable. Nature Stone is backed by Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty.
Get Nature Stone installed in your home by the end of March and get up to 50% off. Schedule your free in-home estimate easily online today.
It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Tomorrow night, Andy Baskin from 92.3 The Fan with Baskin and Phelps will join us. That'll be tomorrow. We do it live from 6 until 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Please join us on cleveland.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/More Sports and Less Levine, with new content posted each and every day. Let's take a look at this date in Les Levine history. March 20th, 1964, Les breaks his nose in a collision with a teammate in practice. His teammates sent him a get-well card by a vote of 5-4 with one abstention.
Oh,
216-575-0403. This from Ken Bond in Defiance. Les, I'm 77 and a Browns fan since 1958. My son lives in Winnetka, California. He's been a Browns fan since the 60s. His son, my grandson, who is 10, wore a Browns shirt to school last year before the Browns started winning and classmates made fun of him. He came home and asked his dad why he should be a Browns fan. My son says it takes character to be a Browns fan. Just look at your grandfather. He wears it with pride today. All right, that's what that's all about. Then Cleveland Bill says, I'm glad when I go fishing I don't have to pay $500 million to keep my trout. Bill also says, Dennis, you made some good points regarding money and stars in baseball, but the money also impacts depth. Regarding stars, the 2007 tribe eventually had to let Sabathia and Lee go. Imagine if the Indians could have kept them together for 6 or 7 more years.
I'm never going to say that it isn't preferable to have stars. And you would love to have every organization have a ginormous payroll so they're all on equal footing. The problem with MLB is that the salary cap will never happen unless you have a work stoppage of 1, 2, 3, 4 years.
And you'd have to grandfather everybody in.
You're not putting that genie back in the bottle.
No.
The players would never stand for it. They would just as soon walk out as play again if you're going to try to do that. We can do things like luxury tax and thresholds of that line.
If you're going to pay $450 million, you're not going to worry about a tax.
I'm simply trying to say to Indians fans, listen. Francisco Lindor has an expiration date in Cleveland. He just does. Don't try to pretend like Lindor is going to be able to remain an Indian, because You're not going to tell me that his market, given what we just saw in this offseason, or what we've seen with the stars, not the middle guys, but the stars, Lindor's market is between 300 and 400 million.
Yeah.
There's no way the Indians can afford that. Whether you rip the Dolans or not, whether they should or shouldn't spend more on a payroll, it's not going to happen in the matter of a contract that large.
And in the Cleveland Indians case, and markets like that, if you did have the money to do that for one guy, which they don't, but if you did, you can't afford to have anybody else on your team.
Exactly. And that's when you say that, you run the risk of, oh, you're making excuses for the. No, I'm not making excuses for the Dolans. I'm just talking about what I'm dealing in reality. What the Dolans present with their payroll. The reality is Lindor's out the door in a few years. The reality is Trevor Bauer is out the door sooner than later. Why do you think he was even mentioned in trade talks?
Well, and he'll want 1 year at a time, which I think is crazy, but he does not. We mentioned earlier tonight, actually we started it last night with a voicemail where you can send messages 24 hours a day, and we'll give you that number. There's the number right now, 216-200-6650. There you see it, and that's the number that was called in the off hour of the show by BP and Pepper Pike. Go ahead, BP.
Hey, Les, it's BP and Pepper Pike. I do have a question for you. What's with these play-in games for the NCAA basketball tournament? Why don't they just come up with 68 teams right from the start on Selection Sunday? Why do they have to have these?
I'm arguing with the guy who's on tape.
Playing for, these 4 spots.
Come on, BP.
Please try to explain this.
You know what? With this new system here, we can yell at the callers, and they can't yell
hang
back.
up on us.
Exactly. All right, instead of having 68, just go back to 64. What do you need 68 for?
I hear you.
It makes no sense. I predict there won't be any buzzer beaters tonight or this week. What do you think?
Okay.
I just think the way things are going. I don't know.
Who do you like, Les?
Virginia.
All right.
No reason other than
make amends for last year's one.
That's part of it with with Baltimore County. That's part of it. The other part is I'm rooting for Tony Bennett. Covered him when I was doing Cleveland State games. He was with his father was coach at Wisconsin Green Bay, and he was a tremendous player for that level. So that's it for tonight. Nothing. You had your phone ready to go with any. What was the non-major news with the Indians and who they shipped out and shipped down?
Yeah, let's see. Flaherty, Alex Wilson, couple other guys were told, you're done here, but we'd like you to stick around on minor league situations.
And if you don't have another option, that's what you do.
Yeah, which is standard with every team. You have certain guys you'd like to keep around. Tomlin is now available.
Yeah,
after
he's available.
Wouldn't
Milwaukee
be surprised
jettisoned
if he works his way in as a special advisor.
Really?
As a special advisor. I don't think they're going to run, unless they think they have to have depth at Columbus in terms of a starting spot, because we know he can still get AAA guys out. But Tomlin's a guy. I'm not diminishing him there.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to dump on him. Tomlin, a great guy, a very smart baseball man. He will be a coach if he wants to be.
Right.
Why not start that career as a special advisor?
Well, the Indians have a history of doing that.
Yes, Terry Francona was one of those.
Francona was one.
Before his career took off with the Red Sox.
A couple of pitchers, certainly. And it wasn't
Belcher was a special
it John
assistant.
Farrell one?
Farrell was a special assistant. Yeah, I mean, I've always appreciated what the Indians do in that way, because it allows guys to stay in the game. Buck Showalter was a special assistant. Stay in the game, and then they get their, they're in the forefront of somebody's mind, of another team's mind, and then you go get them, and they get another job.
Another great job by the D-man, Dennis Manoloff.
It's always my pleasure.
You are terrific. There's no question about that. Dennis Manoloff of the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. All right, that's it for us tonight. We'll have my good friend Andy Baskin with us tomorrow night. You see us from 6 until 7 live Eastern Time right here on cleveland.com. We'll see you with Andy Baskin tomorrow night. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.